Margaret is 74, and last winter she stopped trying. Every video she found told her to lift her legs, and her hip simply would not allow it. So she lay there each morning feeling weaker, convinced the problem was her. It was not. Tonight you will learn 5 bed movements that rebuild weak legs without ever lifting them off the mattress. Your heels stay down the entire time. We begin with the first movement in about 60 seconds, and I will explain each one while you do it, not before. Here is the promise, and I will keep it. No long history of muscle science, no parade of studies. 5 movements, each one described so you can follow along from where you are lying right now, with the reason it works folded into the instructions instead of stacked in front of them. A quick word before we start. This is educational, not medical advice, and Margaret is illustrative rather than a real patient. If you have had recent surgery, a blood clot, sudden swelling in one leg, or a new pain that came out of nowhere, please speak with your clinician before adding anything. For ordinary stiffness and gradual weakness, what follows is gentle enough for the worst morning of the week. Movement 1. Ankle pumps with a hold. Lie on your back with both legs straight and relaxed. Leave your heels resting on the mattress. Point your toes away from you, slowly, as if you were reaching for the end of the bed with the tips of your feet. Hold that stretch for 3 seconds. Then pull your toes back toward your face as far as they will comfortably travel, and hold that for 3 seconds too. That is 1 repetition. Do 10. While you are doing them, here is what is happening. The calf muscle is not only a walking muscle, it is a pump. Every time it contracts, it squeezes the deep veins in your lower leg and pushes blood back up toward your heart. When you spend long hours sitting or lying down, that pump goes quiet, and fluid begins to settle in the ankles and feet. Ankle pumps switch it back on without asking a single joint above the ankle to move. That is exactly why this is the first movement, rather than the 5th. It wakes up circulation before you ask anything harder of the leg. Go slowly. The temptation is to flutter your feet quickly and call it done, but speed removes the squeeze. The 3-second hold at each end is the part that does the work. If your calves cramp, shorten the hold to 1 second and build up over a week. Before we go on to movement 2, one small thing. If you are following along right now in bed, tap the like button. It costs you a second, and it tells YouTube to put this in front of someone else who was told to lift their legs and could not. Thank you. The ankles are awake. The heel slide asks the knee and hip to follow. Keep lying on your back. Your heel stays in contact with the mattress for this entire movement, which is the whole point. Slowly slide one heel toward your bottom, letting the knee bend and rise on its own as the foot travels. Do not lift, slide. Go only as far as comfort allows, which for some of you is a few inches, and for others is most of the way. Pause for 2 seconds at the end, then slide the heel back down until the leg is straight again. 8 repetitions on one side, then 8 on the other. The reason this works is worth understanding because it explains why so much standard advice fails people who are already weak. A straight leg raise, the movement most videos open with, asks your hip flexor to lift the entire weight of your leg against gravity. Your leg is heavy. If your hip is arthritic or your abdominal wall is weak, that single movement can be genuinely impossible, and failing at it on the first try is why people quit. The heel slide asks for the same bending and straightening pattern at the knee and hip, but the mattress carries the weight of the limb the whole way. You get the joint motion and the muscle contraction without the load that was stopping you. Keep the movement smooth in both directions. Sliding down is not a rest, it is the second half of the repetition, and lowering under control is where a surprising amount of the strength is built. If your sheet catches on your heel, a smooth pillowcase under the foot solves it instantly. There is a progression hiding in this one, and you will want it in a few weeks. Once 8 slides on each side feel easy, add a 2-second pause at the point where the bend is deepest, then slide back. Later still, slow the return until it takes 4 seconds. You never add weight and you never lift. You add time under tension, which is the only variable a bed will give you, and as it happens, one of the most effective. If you are new here, subscribe and turn on the bell. Everything on this channel is built for bodies over 60 that already have limits, not for people who simply need motivating. Welcome. Both movements so far have asked a joint to travel. The quad press asks for the opposite and produces no visible motion at all, which makes people distrust it. Straighten one leg. Place your hand lightly on the muscle at the top of your thigh. Now press the back of your knee down into the mattress, as if you were trying to flatten the bed underneath it, and tighten that thigh muscle as hard as you comfortably can. You should feel it go firm under your hand. Hold for 5 seconds. Release completely for 3. Do 10 on each leg. What you are doing is an isometric contraction, which means the muscle works hard while the joint stays still. This matters enormously for anybody with knee pain, because pain in a knee usually comes from moving under load, not from the muscle contracting. Take the movement away and keep the contraction, and most people can work the thigh hard on a day when they cannot bear to bend the joint at all. That thigh muscle is the one that straightens your knee when you stand up from a chair, and it is typically the first to fade and the fastest to respond. Use your hand. Feeling the muscle go firm confirms you are contracting the right thing rather than holding your breath and tensing everything. And do keep breathing. Out through the hold, counting aloud if that helps. That is 3 of the 5, and it is the natural place to ask you something. In the comments below, tell me which of these first 3 you could do without pain. Just write 1, 2, or 3. I read those, and they decide what the next video covers. Now let us keep going, because the 4th movement is the one most people are missing entirely. Movement 4, the glute squeeze. Lie flat with your legs straight and your heels down. Squeeze your buttock muscles together as firmly as you can, as though you were trying to hold a coin between them. Your hips may rise a fraction of an inch on their own, and that is fine, but do not push them up deliberately. This is not a bridge. Hold the squeeze for 5 seconds, then let go entirely for 5. Do 12. Here is why this movement earns its place. The muscles across your backside are the largest in your body and the main engine for standing, climbing a step, and staying upright when your balance is challenged. They also switch off more thoroughly than any other muscle group during long periods of sitting, a pattern so common it has been given its own nickname in physiotherapy clinics. When those muscles go quiet, the lower back and the front of the thigh take over the work, which is one reason people who feel weak in the legs so often also feel sore across the lower back. The full release between repetitions is not a rest you can skip. A muscle that has been dormant for years learns to fire again through the contrast between hard contraction and complete relaxation. Holding a permanent half squeeze teaches it nothing. Movement 5, the inner thigh press. Bend both knees a little, keeping both heels on the mattress, and place a folded pillow or a rolled towel between your knees. Squeeze the pillow between your knees firmly. Hold for 5 seconds, release for 3, and repeat 10 times. If you have nothing to hand, press your knees together against the resistance of your own hands placed on the outsides. This targets the muscles along your inner thighs, and they are almost universally neglected because no popular exercise obviously trains them. They matter more than their reputation suggests. Those muscles help stabilize your pelvis every time you take a step, and when they are weak, your knees tend to drift inward as you stand up, which sends the load through the joint at an angle it was not built for. Strengthening them is one of the quieter ways to make standing up feel steadier rather than merely stronger. If you feel this in your groin rather than along the inside of the thigh, you are probably squeezing too hard. Drop to about half your effort. This muscle group responds better to moderate, controlled effort than to maximum force. If any of this has been useful, share this video with someone over 60 who has stopped trying. That is genuinely how these reach the people who need them, and it takes you 10 seconds. Now the sequence. Because 5 separate movements are not yet a routine, do them in the order given. Ankle pumps first, because they bring circulation to a limb that has been still all night. Heel slides second, to move the joints through their range while the mattress carries the weight. Quad press third, glute squeeze fourth, inner thigh last, because those 3 are strength work and belong after the joints are warm. The whole sequence takes between 8 and 10 minutes at a comfortable pace. Do it once a day, in the morning, before you get up. Morning matters here for a practical reason rather than a mysterious one. Your legs are at their stiffest after a night of stillness, and the first steps of the day are when most falls at home happen. Waking the legs before they carry you is simply better timing than doing it at noon. On expectations, I will be straight with you because you have been promised miracles before. In the first week, you will most likely notice nothing except that the movements become easier to perform. That is real progress, even though it feels like none. And it is the point at which most people stop. Somewhere in the second or third week, most people notice that standing up from a chair takes less negotiation. Meaningful strength changes in older muscle generally take 6 to 12 weeks of consistent work. Consistency beats intensity here by a wide margin. 5 gentle minutes every morning will do more than a punishing session once a week. It helps to know what you are actually rebuilding, because weakness in the legs is rarely one thing. Some of it is simple disuse. A muscle that has not been asked to work in months has quietly given up capacity it can get back. Some of it is age-related muscle loss, which begins earlier than most people expect and accelerates through the 70s unless something interrupts it. And some of what feels like weakness is not weakness at all, but sluggish circulation, the heavy, dead-limbed sensation that lifts after a few minutes of movement. The 5 movements you have just learned happen to address all 3, which is why the order matters and why none of them can be dropped as filler. A word on how to tell the difference, since it changes what you should expect. Weakness that is worst first thing in the morning and eases as the day goes on is usually stiffness and circulation. Weakness that is the same at every hour, and that shows up as difficulty rising from a low seat, is more likely muscle. The first responds within days. The second takes those 6 to 12 weeks. Knowing which one you have is the difference between patience and disappointment. 2 adjustments worth knowing. If a movement hurts sharply, stop that one and keep the other 4. Pain that is sharp, that stays in one spot, or that lingers afterward is information, not weakness. Mild muscle fatigue that fades within an hour is normal and expected. And if you can only manage half the repetitions, do half. A shortened version done daily outperforms the full version abandoned on day 3. A last practical note for anyone whose limits are greater. If you cannot slide your heel at all, do only the ankle pumps and the quad press. Those 2 alone still deliver circulation and thigh strength, and they ask almost nothing of your joints. Add the others as they become available to you. The routine is meant to meet you where you are, not to be passed or failed. Breathing deserves one line of its own, because it is the most common thing people get wrong during the holds. The instinct is to hold your breath while you squeeze. Do not. Breathe out slowly through the effort and in during the release. Holding your breath against a strong contraction raises blood pressure sharply for a few seconds, which is worth avoiding at any age and particularly worth avoiding if you take medication for your heart or your blood pressure. If counting aloud feels awkward, hum instead. You cannot hum and hold your breath at once. And if getting onto the bed is itself the obstacle, every one of these 5 works in a firm dining chair. Sit tall, feet flat, and run the same sequence. Ankle pumps and the quad press transfer exactly. The heel slide becomes a slow slide of the foot forward and back along the floor. Let me leave you with the reason Margaret matters. She did not need stronger legs to begin. She needed a version of the work that her body could actually perform on the morning she found it. The mattress under her heels was not a compromise. It was the tool that made the work possible. So tomorrow morning, before you sit up, try the first 2. Just ankle pumps and heel slides. That is 4 minutes. If those go well, add the third the next day. If this gave you something you can actually use, tap the like button once more and save this video, because you will not remember all 5 tomorrow and you should not have to. And in the comments, tell me 2 things: which movement you managed and what you want covered next, whether that is getting out of bed safely, standing up from a low chair, or steadying your balance in the kitchen. I read every one of them. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of your legs, and I will see you in the next one.